Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we shall be starting a new chapter. It's called Economic Importance of Bacteria and Fungi. It's your ninth chapter. Now what is a bacteria? You have learned in your lower classes about bacteria. It belongs to kingdom Monera. It is a primitive organism. Why is it primitive? Because it is not that well developed as the higher animals. They are unicellular, made of only a single cell, prokaryotic, that is, they don't have a well defined nucleus. The genetic material is dispersed in a region of the cytoplasm without a nuclear membrane. Each bacterial cell is not enclosed in the nuclear membrane, and hence the bacteria they are placed under the kingdom Monera. So this is the reason why they are placed under kingdom Monera, because they are prokaryotic, their genetic material is dispersed in the cytoplasm and not enclosed within a nuclear membrane. Now, where are they found? They are found in air, they are found in water, they are found in soil, they are also found inside, living inside the body of living organisms. It can be human beings, it can be animals. Practically, they are found everywhere. In the human body, they can be found in the mouth, on the skin, inside the intestines, or in the genital tracts. Okay, you must have sometime or the other experienced a bacterial infection, maybe on the skin, okay, or in other part of your body. It is due to this bacteria, because the fact that bacteria can be found everywhere. Bacteria present inside the intestine, it is synthesizing vitamin B, so that's a good bacteria found in our gut. Many of them cause diseases not only in human beings but also in animals. Some of them are, however, beneficial. Now, how do they occur? How are they found? Well, when found in pairs, okay, like this, when they are found two together, then they are known as diplococci. When they are found in chains like this, they are known as streptococci. And when they are found as clusters, okay, all together, they are known as staphylococci. Now, what is their size and shape? Of course, they are microscopic, so they have to be very small. The average size is 2 micrometers long and 0.5 micrometers thick. Now, for those who don't know, 1 micrometer, how much it is equal to 1,000th of a millimeter. That is 1 millimeter. If you divide into 1,000 parts, that one part is a micrometer. So it is that very tiny, and that is why it is microscopic, unicellular. Based on the shapes, if you take the shapes, they are found in various shapes. There are four basic shapes they are found in. According to the shape, they are given a name. The first one is known as cocci, or those which are spherical are known as cocci. Those which are rod shaped are known as bacilli, and those who are spiral is known as spirala, or they are also known as spirally, or it is vibrio, it is comma shaped. The comma shaped ones are known as vibrio. Okay, so cocci, bacilli, spirala, and vibrio are the four shapes they are commonly found. Now, if you take the structure on the microscope, it will look like this. We learn now in detail about the structure. So it contains a living substance. So the name given to the living substance is known as a protoplasm. We always call it the cytoplasm, but in this case it's called the protoplasm because it is containing the cytoplasm as well as a chromosome. Okay, the chromosome material, which is also including the cell wall also. Okay, so this protoplasm includes the cytoplasm, it includes the chromosomes, which is also surrounded by the cell wall. The cell wall, what is it made up of? It is made up of peptidoglycan. The cell membrane lies below the cell wall. So below the cell, the below the cell wall, you will also find another membrane, that is a cell membrane. So here the cell wall, below it you will find the cell membrane, and this is the protoplasmic material which is containing the cytoplasm over here, and this part which is the chromosomes. Okay. So this is it. It has no well-defined nucleus. I told you that is why it belongs to kingdom Monera. It has no well-defined nucleus, so it is prokaryotic. The DNA material is present in the central region. As you can see here, it is concentrated at the center of the cell. The chromatin materials is in the form of a single cell and not enclosed in the nuclear membrane. So here it is like one cell only. Okay, the chromatin material is like one cell, but it does not have a nuclear membrane. The cytoplasm, it contains the vacuoles, the granules, and in some cases, it also contains the chlorophyll. Okay, it has a slimy protective layer outside, which is known as a capsule. Okay, you can see this white colored border, it is known as a capsule, and it is bordering the cell wall. Okay, so you have the capsule, you have the cell wall, you have the cell membrane, and within that you have the cytoplasm, then you have the nuclear material, the chromatin material also. Now it has got this whip-like structure which is known as a flagellum. Okay, so this flagellum will help the bacteria to move. Okay, especially when it is in the liquid medium, it will help the bacteria to move. So most bacteria, they cannot move on their own except the ones that have the flagellum. They are transported by wind, water, or by contact. They have whip-like structures called the flagella. Okay, so the flagella, it can pierce through the cell wall as well as the capsule. Okay, it can pierce through it, and the lashing movements of the flagella provide locomotion in a liquid medium. So especially in a liquid medium, it will move with the help of flagella. Otherwise, it is helping it to get its food. Now we come to its nutrition. Most of the bacteria are devoid of chlorophyll. That is why they cannot make their own food and they are dependent on the host for their food. So they have to depend on other sources of food. So they are known as we all call them heterotrophic. Okay, so they are characterized now. Heterotrophs are again divided, as you know, into two other subdivisions. They are the saprophytes and they are the parasites. Who are the saprophytes? The saprophytes are the ones that depend on decaying organisms. So some of the bacteria, they depend on the decaying, okay, the dead decaying organisms for their food. In that case, they are known as saprophytic bacteria, and in some of them are parasitic. They live in the body of the living host, okay, on the body of the living host. So then they are known as parasitic. For example, if they are living on an animal body or on human body, then they are known as parasitic. Now we come to the next aspect of the bacteria, that is respiration. Some of the bacteria respire by absorbing the atmospheric oxygen. In that case, they are known as aerobic bacteria. But some of them, they don't need this oxygen. Okay, so they are known as anaerobic bacteria. And when they get exposed, these type of bacteria are the ones they cannot withstand oxygen. So when they are exposed to the oxygen to the air, then they get killed. Now we come to the next part, that is reproduction in bacteria. You have learned last year that bacteria reproduces by a method known as binary fission. So reproduction is the only means of asexual reproduction of the or the cell division. The circular DNA splits, as we have seen in the other diagram, this is the DNA material. This DNA material will slowly separate out, as you can see. Okay, the cell keeps expanding and the two DNA, they split into two. Here it is one, it splits into two parts, and these two parts then start moving away from each other. It forms a cell, forms a constriction, a sort of division in between. Depending on the type of bacteria, the two daughter cells then remain attached or they get separated from each other as independent cells. Okay, so they can either remain attached to each other or most of the time they get separated, they get pulled away from each other. As you can see, the cytoplasm here also got separated. Okay, so the cytoplasm also gets separated and they get pulled away from each other and they then can live as independent cells. Now, the second type of reproduction, it can also have a primitive type of sexual reproduction. Now, two bacteria of different strains but of the same species, they can come together by conjugation. As you can see in this diagram, these are two different bacteria. Okay, they are of different strains but they have to be of the same species. Now, this is known as a donor cell. This is known as a recipient cell. Okay, so this is a plasmid, okay, of the donor cell. Okay, it enters through a hollow tube like process which is known as a pilus. Okay, and it enters into the recipient cell, and that is how the reproduction takes place. Now the third method is known by the process of spore formation. Now this takes place due to unfavorable conditions. What are unfavorable conditions? Conditions like extreme temperature changes, like too much of heat or too freezing temperatures. So during unfavorable conditions, the bacterial cell, it withdraws all its content. It brings all its content together and it forms a spherical mass, okay, which is surrounded by a thick and hard protective wall. So it develops a protective wall around itself. Now this rounded body is given the name a spore. Okay, it is given a name. The rounded body is a spore, and which is contained within a wall. So there's a cell wall, and inside that is a spore. Now, when the favorable conditions are released, what happens? The wall ruptures and there are spores inside this. Okay, these spores are released and these can withstand the billions of small bacteria that are inside it. They are released and they when they fall in a suitable place, they grow into a new bacteria. Okay, so this is a type of reproduction that takes place during unfavorable conditions. Now these can be also like a resting stage, okay, so as to withstand the unfavorable conditions. Now what are these spore characteristics? They can tolerate extreme dryness or extreme cold temperatures, okay, because they have got the cell wall, the covering. They cannot be killed at a boiling ice with boiling water or ice also. Some of them can tolerate even poisonous chemicals. The spores are carried far and wide by wind, water, or by contact. On meeting the favorable conditions, they can germinate. The dormant protoplasm becomes active and comes out of the ruptured wall in order to form a new bacterium. So the dormant protoplasm, which was inside, which was lying dormant, okay, which was lying in a resting stage, as soon as the cell wall ruptures and the spores are released, it becomes active and it forms a new bacterium. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you so much.